Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you today. This will be my Christmas Day beer review for you, and for this one I've decided to go with probably the most well-known Scottish craft brewery out of the lot. So today I've chosen the Brewdog Hoppy Christmas, which is one of their two Christmas seasonal beers that they've just released, the other one being Santa Paws, and I reviewed that for you a couple of weeks ago. And you'll find the links to all my other Brewdog video reviews in the video description there, so have a look at those if you are interested. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a little bit of a history of the brewery as I like to do, but as I say, I've done this a number of times before, but I will talk about the current events at the brewery as well. You can keep up to date with that in the blog on the website as well, and you'll find the link to that in the video description as well. But as I always say, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to go towards the last part of the video and you will catch that particular segment. But anyway, Brewdog was founded in 2007 by James Watt and Martin Dickey, both of whom were only 24 years old at the time, and their first brewery was at the Kessock Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast of Scotland. I always describe the country as looking a bit like a monster's head, and Fraserburgh is right up on the tip of the monster's nose there. But they used to sell beer at their local markets and out the back of their old van basically, but they produce a number of occasional brews, and this includes ales, stouts, pilsners, you know, any style you can probably think of. They'll have done one of these. They've got hundreds of beers that they've produced already. But in 2008 there was actually a big media storm over the Tokyo beer which the company produced, which is 18.2%, and many in the media actually branded the pair irresponsible. And I have one of these beers that I'll review for you at a later date, and I'll research that a bit more for you when the time comes to make that video. But the company is also well known, having held the title of World's Strongest Beer on more than one occasion, and indeed they are famous for actually producing a lot of strong beers. The strong beers they've produced have included the 32% Tactical Nuclear Penguin, the 41% Sink the Bismarck, and the 55% End of History, and this was packaged with Squirrels and Stouts, and this got them into trouble with animal rights activists and things like that, but they didn't care, they just kept on brewing the beers. But these really strong ones have actually been produced largely due to the ongoing feud that they've had, if you like, with Schwarzbrau in Germany. They've basically been competing for the title of World's Strongest Beer. However, that has been claimed by another Scottish brewery who produced one beer at 65%, which was called the Armageddon, and the other one at 67.5%, which was called the Snake Venom. This was produced by Brewmeister over in Keith, which is in the Aberdeen area of Scotland as well. It's inland a little bit more than that though. But in 2008 they began exporting their first beers to Japan, Sweden and the USA, and in this year as well they also began their Equity for Punks shareholding options. This actually started in 2009, and this aided the company by expanding 200% during a recession. Very, very impressive. As I say, this company has grown a hell of a lot since its inception, of course. But in 2010 they started opening their first brew pubs. The first one of these opened in Aberdeen in October 2010, and this was followed by new bars in Edinburgh and Glasgow in 2011, and they opened several new ones in England over the next couple of years as well. But in 2012 I believe it was when they started to expand into England. They opened bars in Nottingham, Manchester, Newcastle, Bristol, Birmingham and the Shoreditch area of London, and they also have one in Leeds as well. But the brewery also moved to their new facility in Ellon, closer to the city of Aberdeen, and the Fraserburgh facility remained as a beer lab for experimental brews. And I was told in the brew pub in Aberdeen that they're actually moving some more production back to this old site in Fraserburgh as well. But they're actually the largest independently owned brewery in Scotland, and they produce 120,000 bottles per month for export all across the world. You can get these in Europe, the Far East, Australia, North America, South America. Pretty much anywhere you can get these beers. Sorry, I had a little thing in my throat there. But to go on to more recent events that's been going on at the brewery, very recently they've had an exclusive tap beer deal with Stone Brewery from the US, and they apparently have 4 exclusive beers on cask from the 7th of December, but I think these are all gone now. But these have been produced in their brew pubs. But Stone are one of James and Martin's favourite craft breweries, and they also opened up a new brew pub in Shepherd's Bush recently in London there. I believe that opened on the 30th of November, so if you're watching from the London area, definitely go and check that out. But they've also just released some new beers as well. There was 4 new ones that were going to be released for a limited time, and during this time you could actually vote for your favourites, and these would become a permanent brew. This was going to be the Armory, which is a black lager, Hobo Pop, which is an American wheat ale with rye, Interstellar, which was a red rye IPA, and the Brixton Porter. I believe there were only 3 of these actually released, and I think it was actually the Armory which they chopped from it. They said it didn't turn out very well in the brew pub. But they're also going to produce a salt caramel popcorn beer, and they've recently recently released 2 Christmas beers as well, and this was the Santa Paws, which is a Scotch ale, and this one here, which is the Hoppy Christmas, obviously a Simcoe IPA. But I think these are both sold out now. But they also plan to open up some new international locations for their brew pubs, and this includes one in Sao Paulo, one in Tokyo in Japan, Berlin in Germany, Rome and Florence in Italy. They've all been confirmed, but they're also looking at venues in Brussels in Belgium, Paris in France, Barcelona in Spain, and a number of US venues are also being looked at for these new brew pubs. And interestingly as well, I actually read that there'd been somewhere in China had basically copied one of their there'd been basically a fake brew pub of Brewdog opened up in China, and they've got red signs and things like that, and the beer's called Funk IPA. But Martin and James took it quite well. They said that they were quite flattered that somebody had been so taken in by their beer that they decided to copy what they'd actually been doing. So it was quite funny actually to read about that. But there is another new beer coming out in the next little while, so I couldn't find the article for that on the website when I was researching for this one for you, but I will look at that for the next Brewdog video. I've got a number of these beers that I want to go through when I'm at home for the festive period. But anyway, let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself, and I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the bottle here. As you can see, it's the standard Brewdog art. It's a nice kind of reddy colour, this one here, sort of similar to the 5am Saint actually, maybe just a little bit lighter. They changed the colour of the 5am Saint to be a darker one recently. As is tradition with my Brewdog beer reviews, I'll just read out the blurb for you. It says, "This Christmas, wish for a green Christmas, where flurries of hot flakes blanket the world like you've never seen it before, and crunching through crisp, sparkling drifts releases billows of pineapple, citrus and papaya with every step. The reign of the snowy angel is over. Long live the Hop Angel, where parks and playgrounds become adorned with the outlines of celestial beings that fell to earth from angry-looking emerald clouds. Tune into breakfast TV to find life's on hold for 24 hours as this hop day demands you rocket down a hill on the back of a baking tray, or simply raise a glass of this festive IPA as we wish you a very hoppy Christmas from Brewdog." So this one, as you can see, this is a bit more of a tame blog thing that they've put on this one for them. Usually they're a bit mental, and it's quite funny. They're sort of portraying the Scottish genetic craziness to the world here. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting. This one is a 7.2% Simcoe IPA. Obviously it uses Simcoe hops when it's termed like that, and it also is malted with extra pale, Cara and crystal malts. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting here. Quite looking forward to trying this one, as I say. Oh, and just to let you look at the bottle cap, actually, I'm forgetting that this one has the red Brewdog dog on it here. But yeah, that's a little bit different. Some of them do have the red dog, most of them have the blue dog though, and some of them have the shield as well. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting here. A nice little bit of smoke as you open it up there. Pouring out to be a nice deep golden amber colour here. Really looking forward to trying this one. I really like some of the Brewdog Pale Ales that they've produced. This one's not got much of a head to it, I have to say. But yeah, I'll just check that you're seeing the colour of this in the light. But yeah, as you can see, if I shine this over to the light here, I'll bring the light over a little bit. As you can see, this is a nice sort of reddish amber colour. Really looks quite nice actually. But yeah, really nice sort of reddish amber colour. It's quite clear, I can see my fingers through it. There's just a half finger of head here. That's actually reflecting quite badly. I'll move the light back out the way, but it's a nice sort of reddish amber colour here, as you can see. Really beautiful looking beer. There's no sedimentation, just some big bubbles floating up to the surface there. There's no little bubbles really visible in this one. Just a half finger of head, and that's actually starting to dissipate now to just a little sort of foamy layer. In terms of the aroma for this one, this one smells a lot different from some of the pale ales they've produced before. This is really interesting actually. There's a hell of a lot of fruit in here. There's some grapefruit and maybe some, I don't know, perhaps pineapple and maybe a little bit of peach in here, but it's a hell of a lot of tropical fruit there. A big blast of grapefruit with maybe just a little hint of citrus, but it's a big tropical blast in this one. Maybe some pineapple in the background there as well. Grapefruit and pineapple is probably the best ones that I'm going to be able to pick up here. But yeah, big aromas here. This is a really nice smelling beer. The pine resin is just in the background here, and there's maybe just a sort of caramel malty backbone. It's actually, this is a really nice smelling beer. This has got one of the best noses I've smelled from Brewdog actually. A really nice grapefruit pineapple aroma here. If you get this beer, just take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of it. It's really nice. But let's give this guy a taste. Very fruity on the opening actually, yeah. yeah, it's quite fruity on the opening. There's a good bit of grapefruit in there, and I think just some citrus in the background. We are getting a mix between that grapefruit and sort of pineapple flavour. A big tropical fruit blast, as I was saying, with the aroma. There's a little bit of herbal character to the hops as well, I think, but the pine is fairly prominent. It's more in the background though. It's kind of, you're getting that big sort of tropical fruit blast with the sort of nice pine and herbal notes in the background there. But yeah, the malty flavours are coming in after the fruity things. It's giving way to a nice sort of lightly toasted bread aromas there, and maybe just a little hint of biscuit sweetness, but that bitterness coming from the hops at the start is sort of lingering throughout this one. You're getting just a little hint of caramel and toasted breadiness in there, I would say. This is a nice one. It's actually very, very light, which is surprising. I was expecting this, with it being 7.2%, I was expecting it to be a little bit more syrupy, but it's a very sort of light beer. But yeah, you're opening up with that nice grapefruit, pineapple, tropical blast at the start. A little bit of herbal character with some pine needle notes in there, pine resiny notes if you like. And there's some nice herbal character to it as well. It opens up nicely, then the malts come in a little bit more. Some nice toasted bread there, maybe just a little hint of caramel. And at the end you're getting the bitterness, the dry bitterness coming in. It's actually quite a dry finish on this one. You've got the fruits coming in there, but the bitter fruitiness is what's really underpinning this beer. This is a nice one from Brewdog, I have to say. In terms of the mouthfeel for this one, it's mid-bodied, I would say, or probably light to mid-bodied. It is actually a surprisingly light beer for the ABV, and it does have a really beautiful aroma, this one. I could sit and smell this one all day. It's a shame that I've only got one of these, I have to say. But yeah, I would say this one has to be described as a sort of light to mid-bodied beer. There's a little, it's sort of light to moderate carbonation, I would say. It comes in and it smooths out quite well with this one, which is quite surprising for a pale ale, I think. Usually you expect a bit more of an attack from the carbonation to complement the bitter hops, but this one comes in and smooths out quite well. And it's a slightly oily mouthfeel, this one. But it's actually, yeah, it's quite oily and wet. It's a very, very drinkable beer. Maybe a bit dangerous how drinkable it is, considering it's a 7.2% one. You could easily down a few of these. This is a really, really nice one, I have to say. One that I'm quite impressed with from Brewdog. They produce a number of nice beers, but this is another really, really good one. And I'm quite impressed. I like the fact that they've got a nice tropical fruit blast in this one, which is really, really cool. I highly recommend that you actually give this beer a go if you get the chance. As I said, it's only a limited release one. I think this might have been released a few years ago before as well, and it had a different percentage. I saw one of these listed on ratebeer.com with a lower percentage, so I think this might have been released a few years ago and they've redone it this time. And I said the same with Santa Paws as well. I think these two beers may have been released a few years ago and they've brought them back and changed the recipe slightly. But this is another really, really nice one from Brewdog, and I highly recommend you give it a try if you get the chance. As I say, I think they might have sold out, but hopefully you've enjoyed this beer review anyway and it's been informative for you. If you can't get it this year, definitely look out for it in the next few years. Hopefully they'll bring these back. But both of the two Christmas seasonal beers I've been quite impressed with. The Santa Paws was a nice, quite light Scotch ale, but it had a good bit of flavour in there. This one's another quite light Christmas beer, but it doesn't let you down on the flavour, and that's typical of Brewdog. Their beers are really, really flavourful, and that's what I really like about this brewery. But anyway, as I say, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer if you've tried it before. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll be back with a few more beer reviews for you over the festive period. I have another couple of Christmas seasonal ones that I want to go through for you before the new year hits, so hopefully you'll tune in for those. And thanks again for watching my beer reviews. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you soon with more beer reviews. Cheers.